Hello! In this learning experience video, we are going to cover some introductory information about Excel. Now, Excel is a spreadsheet program, and you can use this Excel program for a variety of things. You can organize data, perform calculations, make decisions, graph data, create reports, and many, many more functions. Actually, Excel is important to students regardless of your major, your age, or your career path. Every student in this class is able to leverage Excel to help with productivity and efficiency. So I want you to think about this for a second. Before we get started with this video, do you think Excel is important? How have you used Excel in the past? And then think about, what is your current major? And if you're undecided, that's okay. Think of a career path that you'd like to explore. What's a situation in which Excel would benefit you? And if you're unsure about how to answer any of those reflection questions, that's okay. We'll get to know Excel a little bit more as we progress through the next few weeks of instruction. So I want to jump right into the program because Excel is really expansive. There's a lot to cover, and I want to cover it in a way that is not intimidating. I want to cover it in a way that is very approachable. Because sometimes, as you see that we have Excel open on your screen, it can look a little bit intimidating at first glance. So let's break down the interface first. Just like with Word and just like with PowerPoint, we have a couple of interface similarities. You see that we have the same ribbon. It's located at the top of the interface. We have different tabs that are going to hold different groups of functions, and we'll go through these in more detail as the weeks progress. But for now, just know that this is the Excel ribbon, and it houses different groups of functions. Excel is comprised of columns and rows. So a column flows vertically, so up and down. So you see the columns, they're labeled A, B, C throughout the alphabet. Once the alphabet reaches Z, they'll start duplicating and repeating. So then we have columns AA, AB, and so forth. In addition to columns, so in addition to the vertical spaces, we also have the horizontal spaces. These are called rows. Rows are numbered numerically. So you see numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Each row is individual. Now, within a particular space, you have what is called a cell. And if you look at the interface, you see some gray shading here that looks a little bit like a large table. Each of these sections within that table are cells. So this first cell here is A1. It's called A1 because it's in the A column, row 1. I know this because in the name box up here on the far upper left-hand corner, I'm able to see the column letter and the row number. If I were to jump down in maybe the middle of my spreadsheet, my name box would update to show me the column letter and the row number. Excel is also comprised of worksheets. Now, when you save an Excel file, it's actually going to save as a workbook. And a workbook is just a compilation of different worksheets. So if you look at the bottom of the interface, you see sheet 1 here. This is one individual page. Think of this as a page in a Word document. So page 1 is the first worksheet. If I needed subsequent sheets, I could choose this plus sign to add new sheets. Now, what's great about this is I can actually double click on a particular sheet name and rename it. So I'll just type in name. I can right click and choose a tab color so that I'm able to visually distinguish between the worksheets inside of my workbook. So we have a lot of options here in terms of how much data we can hold in a particular Excel workbook. So I'm going to delete some of these tabs. I'm just going to right click and choose delete on the tabs that I have just inserted. Not tabs, I'm sorry, the sheets I just inserted. And when we talk about how much information an Excel worksheet contains, That's a lot. So I have some numbers listed on your screen here. Each single Excel worksheet contains 16,384 columns. Each Excel worksheet contains over 1 million rows. That is a wildly huge number. And that bottom line there, the line that begins with XFD, if I actually enter that series of letters and numbers into the name box, it's going to jump me to the last cell. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to click inside of my name box and type in XFD 1048576 and press enter. And it's going to jump me down to the last cell in my worksheet. So how would I return back to the beginning of my worksheet? Well, I'm simply going to type in A1 to jump back to the very first cell in my worksheet. So we can leverage this name box to navigate through our worksheets. Another important aspect of Excel is the cursor. Now notice as I'm moving the mouse around, my cursor changes. So if I go outside of the interface, I have this select cursor. It just looks like the traditional arrow. If I come inside of Excel, my cursor changes to this kind of white black outline plus sign. If I'm up here in the ribbon, I get back to my select arrow. If I hover over the middle of two columns, I get a resizing handle. If I hover over the middle of two rows, I get a resizing handle. But if I hover in the middle of a column or in the middle of a row, I get this downward facing or right facing arrow. Okay, so let's talk about the different cursors, because it's wildly important that you remember the functions associated with the different cursors in Excel. So as I referenced before, there are various mouse cursors in Excel, and each of these cursors hold a different function. So based on where your mouse cursor is in your worksheet, that's going to determine what function that cursor responds to or not. So for example, you may want to resize a particular column, but if your cursor is not in the correct location, you may actually inadvertently move that column. So I want to spend some time going over the different mouse cursors in Excel and what each of those functions hold. The first and most common mouse cursor in Excel is the select cursor. Now you see this on your screen. It's just a white cross that's outlined in black. In a Windows platform, it's going to be a little bit thicker of a cross, but this is just essentially going to allow you to select an individual cell or a set of cells. So this is just activating or making active a particular cell so that you can then type into it, delete from it, or just select it to be highlighted and copied. So the select is just going to be that white cursor or the white cross that is outlined in black. Select a column. This cursor is going to be a downward facing bolded black arrow. So if you look on the screen, I'm going to hover over column G. My cursor is going to change ever so slightly to that bolded downward facing black arrow to signify that when I click the mouse, that entire column G will be selected. Now the same is true for selecting a row. So if I move my cursor over to the left and I select row 6, you'll notice that my cursor changes to a right-facing bolded black arrow. So if I click my mouse cursor, that entire row 6 will be selected. Now, to move information in cells, so you're never going to move a cell. You're going to move information from one cell to another. But the move cursor is denoted by one of two options. On a Mac, you'll see that it's a hand icon. It looks kind of like, it reminds me of a Mickey Mouse hand. On a PC, this is going to be that four-sided crosshairs with the directional arrows in all four corners. So I'll display a picture of the move cursor on your screen. So this is what the Windows platform is most often going to show when you're moving information. So what do I mean by moving? So I'm going to type in some text here. So I have some text in my column or my cell B8. I know it's B8 because I'm in my B column in the 8th row. Okay, but let's say that I want to move that over to E1, elephant 1. So with my move handle, I'm just going to move and release my mouse to E1. So again, I'll demonstrate that. Wait till my cursor changes, because remember, if I click, hold, and drag using the select, it's just going to select that series of cells. So again, it's important that the cursor be exactly what you need it to be for the particular function. So for move, I'm going to use the hand or the crosshairs icon on the Windows platform to move that file or to move that text over to a separate cell. Okay, so let's review. We have select, column select, row select, and move. Very slight differences with a massive impact on functionality. There's a couple of other cursors that you need to be aware of as well. If you remember back to our word lesson, I talked a lot about the insertion point, which is that flashing cursor or the I-beam, and that's going to denote where text is going to be inserted. The cursor or the insertion point or the I-beam is going to be active if you double-click within a particular cell. So I've double-clicked within B2, and if you notice, my insertion point, the flashing cursor, the I-beam, is displayed. Let's say that I have a larger series of text in my column. So maybe I'm just going to add a bunch of text here. So it's obviously a very long string of text. Now, this text actually doesn't expand into all the way through column F. It appears that it's expanding through column F, but that's not the case. Because let's say if I click on column C and start typing some numbers and press enter, you'll notice that column C overrides it because this text is actually held only within column A, cell 1, so cell A1. So that can be very tricky. So how would I resize this? Well, there's a couple of ways. The resize handle is going to look like a line with two arrows facing either direction. Okay, so if you notice on your screen, I have that resize handle. So I can click, hold, and drag that A column to make it a little bit wider. Notice it's still not necessarily wide enough, so I'm going to make it just a bit wider. So now my entire string of text in cell A1 is visible because I used the resizing handle. Now, another way that you can quickly resize is by hovering between two columns, ensuring that that resizing handle or cursor is displaying, and double-click. Double-clicking automatically snaps the width of a column to the longest point. So it will automatically adjust based on the text that's inserted into that particular row. So that's really handy. The same is true for rows. So if I hover between rows 2 and 3, as you can see on my screen, my cursor is going to change to that bolded black line with arrows facing in either direction, and I'm able to click, hold, and drag to adjust the height of a column manually. So this can be very handy when we're talking about manipulating really large data sets of information. So again, you've got to really be aware of what cursor is the active cursor when you're performing actions in Excel. Because clicking and dragging with the select cursor, the move cursor, and the fill handle, which we'll get to in just a second, will all react differently. So if you're working in Excel, like you're working on one of our assignment problems here at the end of the week, and you notice that some of your text gets a little bit wacky, chances are you have performed an action with the wrong cursor. So what do? Control Z, undo, is our best friend. It'll step us back so that we can try to reapproach that action in a different manner. Let's talk about the fill handle. The fill handle may be my most favorite function in Excel. Okay, so I'm just gonna, again, move this back. I deleted all of my stuff. Oh, this section here, this area right above the 1 and to the left of A is select all. That's very handy if you just need to clear everything out and start over. So the fill handle. Now, Excel is really great at estimating or at least forecasting what it is that you need. So for example, if I type a 1, and I can use a couple of different options to input information. I can use the Enter key, I can use the downward arrow key, or I can select the next cell down with my mouse. So I got a couple of options there. So I'm going to enter a 1, I'm going to enter a 2, and I'm going to press the Enter key again, enter a 3, and this time I'm going to press the downward arrow key. So all 3 of those actions have the same result. So I'm going to select a 1, 2, and 3. So with my select cursor, so notice that it's the white plus sign with the black outline, click, hold, and drag through a 1, 2, and 3. So I have it selected. If I look at the bottom right-hand side of that selection, I notice that there's a darker shaded square, like a bolded square down in the right bottom corner. If I hover over my cursor, guess what? It changes again, and this is my handy dandy fill handle. I love this. This is the bolded black cross. Now it's different from select, very minor. So select is white, fill is black. So you just need to be aware again of the minor difference, major implication. So I've selected 1, 2, and 3. With my fill handle, I'm going to click, hold, and drag down the rest of the column. And if you notice, Excel says, I think you are wanting a series of numbers, so that's exactly what I'm going to give you. So if I drag all the way down to 25, guess what? It fills to 25 instead of me typing 1, 2, 3. You can imagine how monotonous or annoying that would be. But the fill handle will automatically estimate or forecast the series or pattern that you have input and then give you that information. And it's not just numbers. It's counting by 5s, counting by 10s. So let's go with this example. So I have 5, 10, and I'm going to select those 2 with my select handle. Using the fill handle, drag down. And it says, wait a minute, I think you want me to count by 5s here. And guess what? I did. So using that fill handle, I was able to fill numbers counting by 5s all the way down to 125 automatically. Super, super handy. This fill handle also works on text. I love this functionality. So let's say, for example, that I'm going to do some days of the week. Maybe I'm creating my schedule in Excel. So I have Monday. So I'm just going to type Monday in this cell here. So using my select handle, I'm going to select my cell. And then using my fill handle, I'm going to move over. And it says, I think you want days of the week. So it can go all the way and give me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all in the correct order. So it's smart enough to figure out the patterning of the numbers that you input as well as the text that you input. This is also helpful for months of the year or any set of text that you need repeated. So let's see if I can give you a different example. So apple, pear, grape. Just 3 words here. I'm going to select those, and with my fill handle, it's going to continuously repeat that series. Apple, pear, grape. Apple, pear, grape. Absolutely amazing. So remember about what I said back at the beginning of this video. Excel is for anyone, and it really does help you optimize and be efficient in what you're doing. Now, you may notice a pop-up that displays after you have filled, after you've used that fill arrow, fill cursor. You have some options here. So Excel always wants to, it'll make a determination about what it is that it thinks that you want. And I'm going to be honest, most of the time it's completely correct. But there are times where it maybe doesn't give you exactly what you want. You can use this autofill options drop-down menu to select what you actually wanted. So if you wanted to copy the cells, if you wanted to fill the cells, or if you wanted to fill or copy down a formula. And we'll look at formulas in our Excel example project here in just a second. So I want to look at an example of copying versus filling. So the days of the week, this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that was filling. That was them filling in the series. But let's say that I have Monday and I just want a series of Mondays. Now Excel is going to say, oh, wait a minute, I think you wanted the days of the week, so I'm just going to give you the days of the week. But using my autofill options, I can actually say copy cells, and I've got several options. It will say copy cells. That's going to put the word Monday in each of the cells that I have selected. I can say fill weekdays, so it takes out the weekends. So I have a couple of options when I'm using the fill handle. So I want to encourage you to really explore and experiment with a blank Excel document and familiarize yourself with the different cursors that we've demonstrated in this video and how those cursors respond to different actions that you take in Excel. Okay? So we're going to use all of the information that we covered in this video in our example video that follows. So join me there and we'll get started on the first Excel example.